Well, definitely you can't see much here today. There's my headlamp. I am starting up Trail Canyon Trail, and the goal today is Fletcher Peak and then the east side of Mummy and finally Lee Peak. So it's a 3-peak circuit, and I started just a little after 5 o'clock, about 5:10. My hope is to get to the top of Fletcher Peak by 7:30, top of Mummy Mountain by about 10 o'clock, top of Lee Peak by 12 o'clock, then back here by about 2 o'clock. So we'll see how that goes. I'll be climbing the east side of Mummy Mountain again, where I said I would not go last week, but of course give me a week of rest, and suddenly it doesn't look like it was that difficult. It must be brain damage, I don't know. But anyway, beautiful morning, stars in the sky. You can't see them at this point. It's about 50 degrees, maybe 48 degrees down in the Las Vegas Valley, just 20-25 miles away. It is 80 degrees. It'll be 106 to 110 degrees in the Las Vegas Valley today. I don't expect to be ever above 70 degrees up here in the mountains. So that's a thumbnail sketch of what's going to happen today. So onward and upward. Just a quick note. Here I am on the Trail Canyon Trail, proceeding in pretty much total darkness. And the question is, are you safe in the mountains in the dark? Now, you know, if I was in Wyoming, where there are things that could eat you, maybe I'd think twice about it. But here in the Las Vegas area, in the Spring Mountains, it's very peaceful, and I feel safer than most people listening to this video would feel if they were in the metropolitan area and walking the streets in the dark in the middle of the night. This is very peaceful, it's safe, and there's just a feeling of total serenity. We're going to see the sunrise in about a half hour. And at that point, we will be up at about around 9,000 feet, between 9 and 10,000. And there's nothing like watching the sunrise in the mountains. When you watch the sunrise and you look at the mountains from a low point, you see how they're painted red and how beautiful they are. Well, when you're in the mountains during sunrise, you are a part of that scene. And so we're going to get to see that in a little bit. Okay, I want to save my video here, my battery, so that we get the whole journey. But just wanted to share that with you. You got to see this. Did you know that 30 minutes before the sun actually rises, there is a time called atmospheric dawn? We are in that moment right now. The sun has not yet risen over the mountaintops. You can see where the sun actually, though, is touching the tops of the mountains. But where I am here, we are in what's called atmospheric dawn. And by the way, there you're looking at the upper south ridge of Kyle Canyon. A little to the right would be Mount Charleston, not too far from the right. And here's the trail. This is a good view of what atmospheric dawn is like. I turned off my headlamp a bit ago, and the next thing that we see is going to be the actual sunrise. But had to show you this before, well, let's see, just a minute. That is the upper north Kyle Canyon Ridge, upper North Loop Trail, and you can see portions of it up there. Anyway, I wanted to show you atmospheric dawn. Very beautiful time of the morning. Wake up, get outside, look around. The whole universe looks different. Okay, it's nearly 6 a.m. I've got probably 45 minutes into this trip so far. But what I wanted to show you here is you can see in the mountains multiple stages of sunrise all at once. What you're looking at here is the period of atmospheric sunrise. The sun has not yet broken over the hills. But take a look at this. There's the south ridge of Kyle Canyon, upper south ridge, Mount Charleston in the sunrise. So what you're seeing here is a combination of sunrise up in the mountains. Look at those beautiful trees. Pine trees, pinyon, I think. Here's the upper North Ridge Trail. The other was the upper South Ridge. And let's take a look here. Here you see Mummy Mountain behind these trees. One of our destinations for today. The second peak actually that we'll be summiting. And there, by the way, is Coxcomb Peak, or Ridge, Coxcomb Ridge. And let's take a closer look at this. There we go. So you approach this ridge from the junction of Trail Canyon and North Loop Trail. You take a right and you go up Coxcomb Ridge. I'll do that in one of my rest days. By the way, there is Griffith Peak in the first rays of sunrise. And let's take a look here. One more pass. Griffith Peak. Lower south ridge of Kyle Canyon. Trees disappear. The upper south ridge of Kyle Canyon. And ultimately, we have Mount Charleston. In the sunrise, but where I am on the Trail Canyon trailhead, God, look at those tree trunks just bathed in the first rays of, well, it's still atmospheric dawn down here, but the sun just plays so many colors in the early, and then sunset, same thing, only it's reversed. And you'd see these trees bathed in the sunlight, the waning sunlight of the day. So anyway, here you see the stages of the sunrise in the spring mountains. Here we are at the junction where Trail Canyon meets the North Loop Trail. North Loop Trail proceeds up this way, or what we're going to take is down in this direction. It's a section I took last week and could not document it because my battery ran out. Here you're looking at Mummy Mountain in the sunrise. I think I'm hearing a woodpecker on one of these pine trees. There's Mummy Mountain in the sunrise. We're still technically in atmospheric dawn because I cannot see the sun yet. And here is a trail that goes up Coxcomb Ridge. And there's the top of Coxcomb Ridge. That pounding you hear, if you can hear it on the video, is the woodpecker, by the way. There's Mount Charleston. Those woodpeckers are very important to these pine trees. So what they do is they feed on the insects that can enter a pine tree and kill it. So you want to have those woodpeckers around. Okay, anyway, we're going to document this next part of the trail. It takes about a half hour to get up to Rain Tree from here. So here we go. And here we are embarking on the North Loop Trail, the connector between Rain Tree and this junction. As the sun is beginning to rise, but has not yet entirely risen. This is the end of atmospheric dawn, pretty much. So here we go. Hopefully a quick half-hour shot up to the Rain Tree. Okay, you're probably going to be able to add an hour or more to my time just from taking pictures and videos. But here we are on the North Loop Trail, the stretch between the junction with Trail Canyon Trail and Rain Tree. But what I wanted to show you here is some amazing features. You can see from the right that pointy rock is Coxcomb Ridge, and then you see Griffith Peak, the next high point right in the center of the screen, Griffith Peak. And then you can see the ridge between Griffith Peak and the next peak to the left of Griffith Peak is Harris Mountain. And we've taken that loop before. And if you look carefully at the base and just a little bit to the left of Griffith Peak, here's Griffith Peak, by the way. Here's Coxcomb Ridge, a little closer view. To the base is Cathedral Rock. Okay, and Griffith Peak, there's the ridge that we take to Harris Mountain. And then looking around and this is all sunrise. Beautiful, beautiful. And looking up, we see Mummy Mountain, our second peak. And you can see the sun just hitting a rock up here. So being up at this time of day, up in the mountains, is really amazing. And the new sun is still painting the trees And we are, by the way, turning into bristlecone pines, which means that we're definitely above 9,000 feet. Okay, onward we go. A little further along, have to show you this. Here we have, in the sunrise, Harris Mountain, and then you see the ridge going up to Griffith Peak. Here's a close-up of that ridge. There's Harris Mountain, and when I descend that ridge of Harris Mountain, which would be the ridge that you see a little sun shine on a ridge, that's the ridge I come down Harris Mountain. Then I take a right and I head toward, actually it's a left from that direction, and I head toward Cathedral Rock. So there you see an entire trail journey, the Griffith Harris loop, and there's the whole thing right there in front of you. And on the other hand, here you can see the entire Coxcomb Ridge, and here's the peak at Coxcomb Ridge, and then up to the junction. And if you look up higher, you can see the south ridge of Kyle Canyon between Griffith Peak. There's the lower south ridge in the distance there. And you're going to see the trees disappear, which is the demarcation between what I call the lower and the upper south ridge of Kyle Canyon, and then on up to Mount Charleston. So there are a few viewpoints of interest from this location. Still on that North Loop Trail junction between the junction of the Trail Canyon and North Loop Trailhead and Rain Tree. And you can see the light advancing even more on the mountains. And you're looking at Mummy Mountain here, our second summit of the day. You can't see Fletcher Peak from this point, but you can sure see a lot of other beautiful locations here. And by the way, I'm on a little outcrop, sort of like a viewpoint, and there's cliffs all around me. By the way, I never mentioned this before, but I am actually afraid of heights. And so when I'm up on mountains looking over the edge of stuff, or climbing up areas like I will a little later today, I'm having to conquer a lot of fear, but I do it because it's so beautiful up here, and it feels good to conquer that fear. Okay. Onward. There's the toe of Mummy Mountain. We're going to go around the edge, the right edge of that toe, where we will connect with Rain Tree and then head up to Fletcher Peak. Had to show you this. Here is the Griffith Harris Loop, Griffith Peak, Harris Mountain, and then the location that we shoot for on the way down at the base is Cathedral Rock. The reason I wanted to show you this, though, is that it's hard to explain normally how to make it from the trailless section, actually anything past Griffith Peak going down that ridge to the left of Griffith Peak and then up to Harris Mountain, that has no trails. And then coming back down, here's the ridge. It's lit up in the sun. This is what I call the Harris Mountain Descent Ridge. And so I take this ridge down. Again, no trails, but it's a pretty steady ridge. And I keep Cathedral Rock in view as my end point. When I get near the bottom of that sunlit Harris Descent Ridge, I head off to the right from this direction. It's the left when you're actually on the ridge heading down. And I head through ultimately the Rainbow subdivision and over to Cathedral Rock, at the base of which is the South Climb parking area. So just thought I'd give you a view of the area down here and that loop, Griffith Harris Loop. Here's Mummy's Toe at first light, and here is this section still on the North Loop Trail, connection between the Trail Canyon Junction and Raintree. But I just wanted to show you, you see the from Mummy's Toe, you go down, there's a saddle there that then rises up to Fletcher Peak. Sun is just beginning to top this ridge here, this saddle. At the base of this saddle is Raintree, and we're actually going to take that ridge up to Fletcher Peak. And let's see if we can see anything else here. Well, there you see Harris Mountain, Griffith Peak, and the south ridge of Kyle Canyon. Beautiful area up here in the new sun of the day. So onward. Okay, closing in on Raintree. Here's Raintree, and to the left is the Mummy Springs Trail, which we'll take after topping Fletcher Peak, which is the trail to the right. And so now, and curiously, we're pretty close to being on time, maybe 5 minutes off, even with all these videos. So, okay, onward. Well, wouldn't you know it, I actually exceeded my, I came in less than my estimated time. I'm on Fletcher Peak. It is 7:29. I had predicted 7:30, but I predicted it'd take 2.5 hours. It only took 2 hours because, in fact, less than 2 hours. 1 hour and 50 minutes. Because here's the summit, by the way. There's Fletcher Peak. The reason that it's 2.5 hours, or 2 hours and 20 minutes from my starting point down on Trail Canyon, is that I've spent about a half hour taking videos and pictures. So 2 hours, or 1 hour and 50 minutes from the Trail Canyon trailhead to the summit of Fletcher Peak. And now we look at our next leg of the journey, which is going to be going down toward Mummy's Toe, which is front and center. At the base of Mummy's Toe is Rain Tree. We passed it a moment ago. But this time we're going to take a right and we are going to proceed to the across wilderness. Well, we're going to pass Mummy Springs, which is down in this area. And then we're going to just a few hundred feet past Mummy Springs, we take off across the wilderness. We have 3 ridges to cross, and I did that last week, so it's something that I know I'm going to try to make up some time. I want to be at the top of Mummy Mountain on the summit by 10 o'clock. So we'll see if we can do that. It gives me 2.5 hours minus the time for videos. Anyway, I am going to head up. Here you see the that Delta Canyon we looked at last week on the you can see it on the Mummy Mountain East page. We got to that Delta Wash Canyon and we took the middle wash, but then we had to backtrack to the left in order to find that opening that took us up to the top. So this time I'm going to take the left wash, cut off some time, and maybe in the future I'll take that right wash that goes up this area. It looks like you can weave among the trees and make it to the top of Mummy Mountain in that direction. So anyway, we are on Fletcher Peak, and as you can see, the sun is definitely up. Here's the summit box, and let's take a look around here because we do have a unique view of the entire journey. The 2 peak, Griffith Peak and Harris Mountain journey. And so we'll take a look at that from this perspective. And okay, so that journey starts just at the base of Cathedral Rock. Cathedral Rock is a marker on the way back. Helps me to navigate. And you can see the parking area there at the base of Cathedral Rock. That's where we start, the South Climb parking area. We take a left and then up the main South Climb trail to the junction, which is up in this area. You see a little saddle there. And then take a left, summit Griffith Peak. And that is the end of marked trails. I can make that summit in about 2 hours, just like this summit. But then the longer, more tedious but very beautiful part of the trip begins as I head down Griffith Peak. You see that ridge to the left of Griffith Peak. Head down that ridge through uncharted territory. Pick up a little trail on the other side of that cliff at the bottom that winds down to the saddle between Harris Mountain and Griffith Peak, and the saddle is right at the base of that cliff. Then I continue up to Harris Mountain. Once we reach the summit of Harris Mountain, down this ridge, keeping Cathedral Rock in view as a marker, because sometimes that's the only marker you can see that tells you how to get back. You get to the bottom of this ridge, take a left, it'll be a right when you're heading, no, I mean, take a right, it'll be a left when you're heading down the ridge, and then descend into the vortex of the Rainbow Subdivision. Keep Cathedral Rock in sight through that whole experience, or you will get lost in that area. And then back to the trailhead where we began. And the curious part of this loop is that it takes 2 hours to get to the top of Griffith Peak, and it takes 7 hours to go downhill through the wilderness back to the trailhead at Cathedral Rock. So just let you know how trails can be very helpful. And then here we look at Griffith Peak, and we see to the right, the lower ridge of Kyle Canyon. Trees disappear. There's the upper ridge. There's a junction there, or not a junction. There's kind of a saddle up there where, just in that demarcation where the trees end and the bare rock begins, and continue on up to Mount Charleston. And let's see, do we see Lee Peak? I'm not sure we can see Lee Peak from this location. Maybe that's Lee Peak. That would be the third peak for today, if we manage to keep our good timing and energy and hold out, because that's quite a trek to do 3 peaks. These 3 peaks, it's actually going to take longer than had I done the Mount Charleston loop. Okay, so here we are, Fletcher Peak, beautiful area, surrounded by bristlecone pine trees at the new sun of the day. And now we're going to make a beeline to the summit of Mummy Mountain, our second peak. There it is right there. And see if we can be there in 2.5 hours. I'm not going to record a whole lot between here and there, except maybe when I get into the wilderness, leave the trails just after Mummy Springs, because you can see the journey on the Mummy Mountain East page, and you can see a lot of this journey on the Fletcher Peak page that brought me up to this point. So I didn't record from Raintree up to the top of Fletcher Peak. I'm trying to save time and battery for my camera, because the thing is, I want to show you that upper cutoff between Mummy and Lee Peak. It's a wilderness area. It took me about 5 times to figure out how to navigate that area without going down the avalanche slope of Mummy Mountain. So hopefully I'll have enough battery left to show you that section. Okay, onward. Fletcher Peak to Mummy Springs, exactly a half hour. And now we're going to hit wilderness pretty soon. We're going to go to the first switchback and then head up a canyon and cross 3 ridges. So things are going to slow down a bit. If there were trails that are this good all the way to the other side of all the way to the summit of Mummy, it would probably be another hour trip. As it is, it'll probably take about 2 hours. Got to skirt around a number of cliffs, and so Anyway, continuing on, I don't want to spend too much time here, but just a quick note. You see where this trail looks pretty good, right at the base of Mummy Springs. It looks like it ends. Well, just go through those trees, the trail will resume, and when you get to the first switchback, I'll show you what to do, but that's where you head up a canyon, crossing ridges. Okay, as you can see, the trail got better after Mummy Springs, but after just a few hundred feet, we're going to leave it for sheer wilderness. You can see that ridge up there where there's a cliff. We're going to cross a series of 3 ridges, weaving in and out among cliffs, and arriving at the Delta Canyon right below the east approach for Mummy Mountain Summit. So here we go, just to let you know where we leave the trail and what we do after we leave. Okay, so we're coming along. Here's the U-turn. There was a gentle turn in the trail. Don't take that for the switchback. Okay. Now, see this log? We head straight up this ridge, yet we veer off to the right, as what we're going to do is every time we hit a ridge, we're going to try to stay fairly horizontal and descend the ridge, or more accurately approach the wash at the base of the ridge by doing as little climbing as possible, and then we hit the next ridge. And we're going to see if I hit the spot that I was at last week, we're going to see a trail appear and disappear, because it's what the direction we're going is pretty logical, and others have gone this way before. Not too many, but anyway, so we're going to head up now at this log and on up to cross this ridge, which cross this wash at the base of this ridge, and some at the next ridge, and then some at the ridge after that, and I think there might be one more after that. We'll count today. Okay, onward. Here we are rounding the top of that first full ridge after we descended into the first wash after leaving the trail. And now and then I saw marks or signs of passage and sort of a trail here, but not really. Okay, so I'm going to round the top of this ridge and then head down to the next wash and up the next ridge. And as you can see, this is not in all places so difficult to traverse. You just got to weave around and find what looks like a natural pathway, natural trail, and take it. Try to even out the ups and downs by descending and ascending as horizontally as possible. Okay, onward. Here we are at the second wash and looking at the second ridge to cross. I got a little off course back there, as you can imagine, and I had to retrace my steps to find the bottom of this ridge. Was faced with a few cliffs, but it was very natural and easy, nothing difficult. So it looks like a pretty easy climb up to the top of this next ridge. And I believe when I descend this second ridge, I will be in the Delta Wash Canyon and take a left and head up to the summit approach of the east side of Mummy Mountain. So we shall see how it goes. By the way, here's a cliff area which lets us know that it's not so easy to head up this wash. That's why I'm going up this next ridge instead. Although it looks like you could actually make it up this wash, but I'd rather go this way. Looks more gradual. Okay, rounding the top of the second ridge, looking into the next canyon, and potentially this is the Delta Wash Canyon. We will find out when we get to the base of it. If it is, then we'll take a left and head up to the summit, the eastern summit of Mummy Mountain. So, continuing along, here we go. Good news, yes, this is the Delta Wash Canyon. The way I can tell is you're looking straight up at the east side of Mummy Mountain, and I believe straight up ahead through these trees is the approach canyon that I was on last week and that we're going to take up to the summit of Mummy Mountain. I'm going to see if I can head more or less straight to that location from here and avoid having to backtrack. I went down into this canyon, this Delta Wash Canyon last week. We're pretty much at the bottom of the delta because you just see one wash here. It separates into 3 washes, and there is a potential summit approach at the top of the right wash, and we'll try that sometime. But for now, we're going to repeat what we did last week, what I said I'd never do again. Tells you what a week will do to your thinking. Anyway, up we go, up to the approach canyon. Okay, continuing to hug the upper left side of the left Delta Wash. And the reason I'm doing that is because it looks like this is directly approaching that summit canyon. So that's my goal. And I'm going to see if I can weave around up here and reach the opening of that canyon. If that's possible, then it's going to save me time over last week. Because last week I descended down into the lower end of the canyon and then came up about midway to the right of the approach canyon, and then I had to retrace my steps to the left. If this works, also what I would say is when you hit the top of that second ridge that we crossed a moment ago, do not descend, just head straight up. But no promises yet. We'll see. Quick note, continuing on up the left wash, and I'm weaving around between the right side and the left side of that wash. Just wanted to mention that the further you go, the more this begins to resemble an avalanche slope. And so here's a little bit of technique for ascending a very steep incline. Lift the forward leg. Do not push with the back leg, but lift the forward leg and put it on the next higher spot, and then lift your body. Do not push with the other leg, the leg that's behind. And take it easy. Let the mountain carry you up. Don't try to fight the mountain. Just keep telling yourself the mountain wants you to succeed. The mountain wants to draw you upward. And to some extent, shorten your steps. To some extent, now and then, I can almost feel like I'm resting as I'm ascending something like this. And by the way, yes, it is rather steep. This is what I just came up, and you can see the angle of the trees. It is a very steep avalanche slope. And so ascending is slow, but it doesn't need to be tiring or tedious. Just take your time and continue to ascend. That's my best wisdom on trying to minimize the impact of an avalanche slope and a straight ascent upward. And if you weave around to the right and the left, you create your own mini switchbacks. Another thing is I have my hiking sticks here. Very strong yucca stalks. And those help to stabilize me and harness my upper body strength as I ascend something like this. So those are my tips on ascending a very steep slope and minimizing the impact of that ascent so that you're not wiped out by the time you get to the top. Okay. By the way, I don't know if I said it, but we are on the east side of Mummy Mountain, and we're heading straight up to the opening canyon that goes to the summit. Well, that route, though it was steep, was steady, and so it was the one to take. Now you see two canyons here, one on the left, one on the right. The one on the right has trees in it, and I'm going to take that because it looks like a more gradual ascent. And that may be the one I took last week, as a matter of fact. So we're going to go up that canyon. And so you can see I've got to cross a little rocky area in order to get to that canyon on the right. But we're going to do it and continue on ascending upward. Here I am ascending that canyon to the right of those two canyons you saw just a moment ago. And I'm not sure if this is the one I ascended last week. It may be a little further to the right, and if that's the case, it may actually be better according to some of the directions I've received. But I don't know. It could also be the same one I ascended last week. It's hard to tell. Anyway, you can see up where those trees are, the highest trees. That's where I take a right and ascend up to the ledge. So we'll see how this goes. And a quick look at what I just came up. You can see there's a healthy drop right there. I came up the slope a little bit to the right of this canyon, and it seems to be working well. Anyway, And there you see the Mount Charleston Observatory. And North Las Vegas, Gas Peak. I'm not on real steady ground here, so pardon me if the phone shakes a little bit. And then to the left of Gas Peak, there's the Sheep Mountain Range and the valley between the two. And that's the Desert National Wildlife Refuge. Okay, onward and upward. Continuing on up that canyon, I'm not recognizing this as the canyon that I took last week. It is one to the right, I believe, of the canyon I took last week, and it actually may be the better canyon according to what I've read, but I do not know. We shall find out. I'm going to continue on up around this rock wall, take a right, and continue on up the canyon to see what we can see. Definitely am at a point where I don't want to go back down this way, because you start sliding on this avalanche slope and then you get to an edge of a cliff and go over that edge. So don't want to do that. Beautiful bristlecone pines. I'll just focus on these at this point. Amazing how they grow on the side of a cliff. There's a little one over there. Okay. Well, looks like it's time to rig up my my walking sticks so I don't have to carry them. Thought of this in my sleep last week, where I would put them on the side strap and then secure them with extra twine. And so hopefully, since they don't collapse, that's about the only way I'm going to be free from trying to carry them as I ascend these rock walls. And it looks like I may be one canyon over too many. Nothing I can do about that at this point. So we'll see what we can do here. This is what I just came up, and still have a ways to go to get up to the top of this. And so we'll just see what happens here. This may actually, oh, look at this. There's the Mount Charleston Observatory. You see a football field right at the base of it for summer practice. Okay, anyway, yeah, it's getting a little sticky right now. I wish I had taken that other canyon, then I would have been in the canyon I was in last week. But I took this one thinking, well, this is the one to take. We will find out. I'm on a pretty nice little ledge right now. There's more of the look. We've got quite a ways to get up there. So hopefully this canyon's going to take me where I need to go, and I don't need to cross over into the other canyon. That would be a pain. Anyway, it looks like this will be a 2-peak summit day rather than a 3-peak summit day. I don't think I'm going to hit Lee Peak. Whoops, here, my hand's shaking. I don't think I'm going to hit Lee Peak today because it's already close to 11. It'll be 12 before, at this pace, before I hit the top of the top of Mummy Mountain going this way. Hopefully I don't have to retrace my steps. We shall see. Anyway, onward and upward. Oh boy, looks like this may be a dead-end canyon, which means I've got to go down the way I just came up. That is not going to be fun. Okay, well, I'll go a little further just to make sure, but yeah, dead end. I came up one canyon too soon. Should have gone around the bottom a little further. So now I'm going to have to go all the way down and then all the way up the way I came last week, because where I need to be is up in that area. Not fun. Okay. So far, the descent has actually been easier than the ascent because I can slide down on my butt. Anyway, continuing on down, and I just need to get to the bottom of this canyon and then find the next canyon over. Okay, here we go. Continuing on down this slippery, slidey canyon. The good news is that I'm nearly, well, I don't know how close I am to the bottom, but I've passed a lot of ground that I thought I would never get down. So, and so far, just taking it easy, watching every step, sliding down where I can, and staying in my most intelligent mind, not panicking at all. And it's working one step at a time. Well, I made it back down that cliff. Now I need to skirt this area and see where the next canyon is, because apparently I jumped the gun. So I'm going to continue on up this way and look for that next canyon. Okay, navigating along the back of the cliff, or the edge of the cliff really. I think I've got just over the next hill, I may find the correct canyon. And then I'll head up. Last week's canyon is the correct canyon, and it's a lot easier, even though it was a bit harrowing. It's a lot easier than the one I just went up and down. So here we go. I've been down, up, eating up a lot of time. It's 12:30 now. Okay. Here is indeed the correct canyon. So what did I do wrong to hit that canyon to the left of this canyon? Don't ever do that. What I did wrong was I was coming from that left wash in the Delta washes, and I didn't realize that I needed to get over this far. So that's where we had the problem. Now I've still got to climb this canyon, but at least I know this is going to lead me up. So here we go. Remembering from last week, hug the left side of this wash, and then up at the that rocky outcrop or tree, whatever that is, up in the center there, then move over to the right side and then just go back and forth. So maybe, I didn't do a triple peak, but I would argue that climbing the east side of Mummy twice plus Fletcher Peak is more than a triple peak. But I'll call it a two-peak summit once I get to the top of Mummy. See those two dead trees? near the top there. I make it to that and I'm home free. It's an easy walk to the shelf immediately below the summit, and then an easy walk up to the summit, and then I return down the other side. So I just need to get there. And in order to do that, I believe I'm going to go up this way and circle around above. Looks like some people have taken this route, but it just looks a little too steep there. So I'll do the way I came last week. But the good news is I can see the goal again. I just want to document this spot. What scared me so much last week is that I need to go up this crack right here and up there. This is what's below. So I definitely don't want to lose my footing here. And what else? Well, there's the goal. Those dead trees leaning against the rock. And basically when I get on top of this, I'm home free. So here we go. Wish me luck. At least this time I'm not trying to negotiate my walking sticks because they are hopefully secure behind me. I know I need to step right there and then right up this crack without thinking about what's below me. So, okay, here we go. Wish me luck. Okay, I made it. That's the, if you go straight down this slidey avalanche slope, you go right over the edge of a 100-foot cliff. I came up that cliff, at least the last 10 feet of the cliff, hanging over the 100-foot drop. And then just struggled my way up this slidey slope, especially getting that first footing on that loose rock right above the cliff. Now I know why I said last week I'm not coming back here. But look where I am. I'm back here. Anyway, it's now a pretty easy walk up to the shelf below the summit, and then from there up to the summit. It is 1:15. I'll probably hit the summit around 1:30 and get back to my car by 3. So that's the situation. Okay, signing off. Well, I'm on top of Mummy, the second summit of this now 2-summit circuit. Although I still like to fondly call it the 3-summit circuit because I had to climb Mummy twice. Went up the wrong canyon the first time. Here's the summit box there, and the final pathway to the summit. Easy going the rest of the way. I'm heading back to down the avalanche slope on the west side, but that's not a hard slope on the way down as long as you know what types of rocks to stand on, the larger rocks, and then just kind of slide down. The good news is that I did make it. I made it past the scary point. I'm up on the summit, and maybe another time we could try a 3-peak summit with Lee Peak, because I definitely spent a couple additional hours making that wrong turn. And right now it's 6 hours from when I was on Fletcher Peak, and that would have been 4 hours from Fletcher Peak. It would have been 11:30 approximately that I would have made the summit had I not gone up the wrong canyon. And then 11:30, it might have still been a little tight to hit Lee Peak and get back in time to go out with my love Darlene. So, okay, heading back now. Feels very good to be up here, to have overcome a couple challenges. One was going back down that first canyon. It was like the thing that you just never want to do is go back down one of those steep canyons with all the avalanche rocks. However, here's a bit of news. Going down is easier than coming up because you can hold on to rocks and lower yourself. So just a little piece of information that you may never use. So anyway, 2-peak circuit. Fletcher Peak, Mummy Peak. Now we're headed back home.